All right, hey, what's going on, guys? So we're in a time right now where over the last several years, and you can argue even before that, where a lot of issues that Christians, a lot of people have brushed aside, or they have thought that they didn't really need to think about it. They didn't really have to have an opinion about it. They didn't really have to choose a side, so to speak, and they could get by in life. And we're in a time now where more and more you have to have a stance on some major issues. And there are some things, yes, you could call it moral proximity. You could call it, within your realm of just reality, things that you may be able to get by with. But for a lot of things, because it's boiled up and it's come right to your doorsteps, whether it's, LGBT or abortion issues, whether it's this, vaccine stuff, whether it's politics, whether it's education, whether it's legal, things that are happening in, each and every person's country. And again, a lot of things happening in other more stricter states and countries. But you're in a time now where you can't really have ignored that. And it's going to get even thicker, even worse in some sense, where you could have gotten by. You could have said, no, I really don't have a thought or an opinion about it. But because you're forced to make some decisions and you're forced to make a choice in some sense, a stance, you will have to reflect that in your choices, your actions, your words. And God is revealing people right now. He's exposing, like I've said before, and exposing doesn't just mean for the wicked and for all these other people, but it's what's deep in your heart. And that's a prayer that a lot of people have prayed for the nations and for society, to reveal what's deep under your heart. And it's a biblical principle too. What's hidden shall come to light, and many other verses where whatever you're thinking, whatever you need to be tested with, whatever you have to have in terms of perseverance to refine your character, those things are being put out. And so whereas once you saw a burning house, several blocks away, that fire is getting closer and closer to your house. It's getting closer and closer to your footsteps. And so there's not any way that you can just ignore it. And a lot of churches, a lot of pastors, sadly, and a lot of organizations, yes, you want to focus on Christ. Yes, you want to focus on, these things. You don't want to make it an idol, but people are taking it the wrong way. And what they're doing, in fact, is they're saying focus on Jesus and ignore everything else, and just don't think about it or put it aside and don't have anything to do with those things. Don't get involved in politics. Don't get involved in, social justice. Don't get involved in this. Just go to your room, just pray, think about Jesus, and yada, 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 right? And the problem there is that when it's your country, when it's your people group, when it affects you, then suddenly you have to think about it. You have to make a choice. You have to make a decision for your family, your friends, and whatever it is. And just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it's not an issue you got to pray for, that you got to have a stance on, that you got to think about. And again, I'm not trying to politicize Christianity. I'm not trying to make something bigger than it is. I'm not trying to bring negativity or all these things in, but we're in a time now, just like, several decades ago when Korea was one country and it became North and South Korea. People had to choose. Do I want to go with communism? Do I want to go with what the other side was, democracy, or I don't know, even in the Nazi Germany times, do you want to pick this side? Do you want to run away? Do you want to be for the Jews, against the Jews? And many times in history, you sort of have to pick a side, and whether it's politics, or whether it's other issues of choice, consuming something, doing something, whatever it is, moral, ethical issues, there was a time for you to have made a decision, and it affected your livelihood, it affected your family, it affected generations of people after you. And so for you to say and focus your eyes on Christ, that's good, but you're speaking to people that may be more easily distracted from other things. A lot of people say that with the intent of not wanting people to idolize and to call their attention too much to one thing, but it's not training them to have a gospel-centered, a biblical, righteous point of view on certain things. Rather, you're coping with it by brushing it aside. And so I'm not saying that you should go out and just start studying everything and, spend all your time, stop reading the Bible and do other things. But we're in a time now where it's not just moping around and having a lukewarm Christianity and to not really, think about certain things. It's a time where you're being tested, and science and all the worldly things, it's clashing with what is biblical values, your Christian viewpoints, and all these different things that is of your essence, your character, if you are a believer. And so we're in a time now where if you're not right with the Lord, if you don't have a prayer life, if you don't have the Holy Spirit in you guiding you, if you don't have an objective, just Christ-centered point of view out of love and out of grace and in mercy, if you don't check yourself all the time and talk about the false prophet of the world, the mainstream media and all of the airwaves that the devil controls, being careful to consume certain things. And with all the misinformation, with all the propaganda, the indoctrination, and all these different things, you have to be in a place where if you're not there, you're going to anchor yourself on the wrong thing, and then you're going to start arguing for something. And it's happening now. There's polarization. There's a lot of strife. There's a lot of people doubling down on certain things, and quite sadly, it's on the wrong thing. They just keep drilling into it, and the devil has gotten some people's minds so caught up in a certain way that it's hard for them to unravel and unwrap, and they've fallen away in that way. And so there's a lot of apostasy. There's a lot of things right now, but we're in a time where you're being tested, where you have to pray. You have to really be in a place where you're right with the Lord. Otherwise, you're going to get swept up. And so a lot of people are swept up, but thankfully, the shaking, the awakening, the testing, the trials has gotten more people alert. They're waking up, they're praying, they're getting a prayer life, they're coming to know Christ, more importantly. And so God bless you guys. More to come soon, but I'll talk to you guys very soon.